welcome to Fin Business. We're at SIBOS and I'm in conversation with Eddie from SWIFT. Eddie, welcome on the show.
Thank you.
Whole world and specifically the banking institutions are talking about open API or open banking. What is the trend that you see specifically in open banking globally right now?
So it depends on where you are in the world.
Right.
There's different phases of development, and you know, APIs in the banking world have been around for a very, very long time. APIs in SWIFT have been around for a while as well. In the trading environment of a bank, there is in the capital markets part, you know, APIs have been used for a long time to push data around into trading applications, to push data into pricing portfolios.
Right.
But increasingly, you see them now being used in the payments infrastructure, for example. And some of that is the banks just seeing that they can get around legacy systems by using APIs.
Right.
Yeah. Some of it's the regulators forcing the bank's infrastructure to be open so that other people can access those APIs, obviously in a safe and secure way. And that regulatory push is really driven by the need to have more competitive models and the need to have new products being delivered into the participants, and one way of doing that is APIs. Open banking, to a certain extent, is all about letting customers make choice as well.
Okay, what are those key one or two important things or key points which the banks and the tech companies or whoever is adopting open API, open banking need to keep in mind?
Well, I think security needs to be uppermost, and the technology is the technology. Yeah, it's like you can expose your infrastructure to APIs. Someone can make a call, right? But so what? You have to have a business purpose.
Right.
And so, you know, in places where they're mandating that banks have list the number of APIs that they've opened, that's all well and good, but you actually need a business purpose. So what are you trying to do? So for example, GPI for us,
yes.
Yeah, which is this new system that we've launched, or new service that we've launched, which largely removes friction from the correspondent banking world. I mean, very high take up, a lot faster payments, a lot more data being used. We have an API embedded in the network that allows people to draw information from a tracker. So for the first time, they can open up the SWIFT network, pull data into their portal, and basically show a customer the status of a payment. It doesn't sound like much, but it's revolutionary. And that's what I mean by there's a real business need for that. People want transparency. People want to know where their payment is. People want to know when it's going to arrive. They want to know what fees have been taken out. And that API allows them, that API call and the integration of that data into the bank allows it to expose it to its customer is a real business benefit. So yeah, APIs are great, but you need to actually have a business process or something you're trying to do, some kind of benefit as a result of it. These are the things you got to keep in mind.
Since most of the banks, financial institutions have the exposure in different parts of the world, and the system is different for each and every bank, how important the standardization aspect is when they go for open banking?
Well, even before they go for open banking, the SWIFT network was set up basically to provide standardization. So we provide standardization and encryption and secure supply of message around the world. And so that standardization is at the cornerstone of what SWIFT does. So you're right, the whole world is maybe talking about harmonization of this market with harmonization of that market. We don't necessarily see that. We see people moving to, the ISO 2002 standard, but at the end of the day, interoperability between those markets is only available because of standardization. And there's a big push on that at this year's SIBOS as well.
Okay, so how do you think the regulators are looking at it? Because I remember that the Monetary Authority of Singapore actually did an open API and some 180 user case studies with the DBS Bank, which was, I think, first one to run on this platform, something like that. How regulators, apart from Singapore in different parts of the world, are looking at open API? So
Singapore is a good example. They've mandated that banks must publish a certain number of APIs over a certain period. And then that's what I said earlier, that's great, but then you still need to have some kind of business use for those APIs, yeah? And then I suppose you probably need to take it back to what Amazon said in around 2000, which was, look, every interface that we produce internally must be accessible externally by an API. So Amazon said that in 2000. So they basically externalized those APIs first. Yeah. So they made sure that all parts of the system internally could make API calls. Only then, they then turned it externally. See, I think that's the big challenge for banks as well, to get that mentality that you first have to use them internally and then use them externally. I think, you know, the stuff that the MAS has done is probably supporting that. And then you see developments in other parts of the world. Here, for example, with NPP, you know, they've externalized the APIs on the new payments platform. You know, and the challenge is for organizations like us and banks to set up sandboxes and allow us to kind of collaborate to bring fintechs in and use them to build applications for those infrastructures.
Lastly, I would like to take your overall perspective on the entire banking, finance, and tech industry. SWIFT has recently launched GPI for the cross-border transactions. The whole world is talking about reg tech, insurance tech, bank tech, and so many other technologies. What kind of innovation or next disruption do you see in financial institutions, banks, in next 2 to 3 years?
Who knows? In the next 2 to 3 months, I can give you a view. Next 2 to 3 years, I don't know. I think all of this stuff will mature over time. I think the incumbents are here to stay. They might be in a different shape or form. You know, everyone with a large network or a large platform, it's very difficult to disrupt a large network or a large platform. You either have to bring in another platform to do it, or you need to have something scale very, very quickly to challenge it. I don't see necessarily the latter happening anytime soon. You know, you might get some of the bigger incumbents coming in with their existing platforms because they want to achieve a certain result, maybe have nothing to do with banking and payments. They just want to make sure that there's no friction in e-commerce. And to do that, they come into the banking world, the payments world. But I see the existing incumbents being around for the next 2 or 3 years. Maybe there's a little bit change here and there. Maybe there's some modification of business models, but I don't see wholesale revolution and things exploding or changing or being replaced by some of these newer technologies. Not anytime soon.
Great. Thank you so much, Eddie, for that information. It was
Thank you.
wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you so much for watching Fin Business.